to Talkin' Tunes.
Welcome to Talkin' Tunes. I'm Oscar Osbo, and we're privileged to be able to listen to one of the great interviews that John Russell and Rick Hickman had with Gary Lewis of Gary Lewis and the Playboys, the son of Jerry Lewis. Here you go.
And now it's the Saturday Morning Jukebox Legends Spotlight.
This morning in the Legends Spotlight, we're joined by a gentleman who has 8 gold singles, 17 top 40 hits, 4 gold albums, and of course the most important part, has just shared with us some of the greatest music of all time as we welcome Mr. Gary Lewis.
Well, thank you very much for having me, and thanks for that nice intro.
Gary, I'll tell you what, you grew up, were born in Los Angeles, of course, the son of one of our all-time favorite guys, the comedian.
Who is it?
He's been wanting to find out.
Yeah, exactly.
All these years.
Got to do a DNA test here. But Jerry Lewis, of course. First of all, what was that? I mean, we've heard from stars, son of and daughters of stars before that said that they thought that everybody's dad and mom went to do movies and stuff like that when they were famous. Did you have that, or I guess at what point did you realize that, hey, I got a dad here that that's kind of special, I guess?
Well, I didn't realize it until I was actually a teenager, because I always thought that everybody else in his movies were my friends' dads. I thought everybody did that.
Yeah, man.
So when I realized it, early teens, 13, 14, something like that, I realized that if I ever want to have my own identity, I better do something other than what he does. So thank goodness in '63 the Beatles came out, made up my mind for me what I was going to do.
And, of course, a part of you falling in love with music was actually every parent's nightmare, because you were given a set of drums as a gift for your 14th birthday.
That's correct, but I had been playing drums since I was 5. Kind of an interesting, quick little story. This friend of my dad's always used to come over and visit, and when he would come over, he'd say, well, come on, let's go in the other room where the drums are, and I'll show you a couple of things. Let me show you some stuff. And so that happened for years and years, and finally one day I realized that this friend of my dad that came over all the time was Buddy Rich.
Oh, man.
Phenomenal.
And Buddy Rich was giving me lessons.
God. I understand that you kind of, your music career, and I'm talking about the start of it for you, was kind of kept secret from your dad. Your mom was really supportive of that, and kind of funded you and got you kind of started with everything you needed, right?
Absolutely. That's the story. My mom said, "Okay, I'll get you the amps and the guitars, and I'll fund the recording sessions and all that. Don't tell your dad, because if this whole thing fails, I got to come up with an excuse as to where that money went." So this diamond ring started climbing the charts, and when it was up to about 10, she says, "Okay, now you can tell your dad." And I did, and he was proud, and he says, "That's fine with me. Do whatever you want to do in life, just do it with all your heart, and don't ever grow your hair like those damn Beatles."
Because you were doing this kind of on the sly, were you playing at a neighbor kid's garage, or how did that form itself?
No, luckily my dad was out of town all the time. And, so we would just set up in this big living room. I mean, it was actually the size of a club anyway. So, I mean, it was great, except that when my dad came home, he noticed all the glass figurines were almost falling off the shelves. We didn't realize it either. So that kind of gave him a clue as to, hey, what's going on here?
You alluded to this diamond ring, and of course that was your big hit right out of the box.
Right.
We'll back up just a second with how did you find I know you had a producer, Snuff Garrett, who is world famous. I mean, he's worked forever. How did that relationship start, and how did you get to your first hit, Gary?
We were actually just rehearsing at Paramount Studios, and Snuffy Garrett and the guy working with him at the time, who was Leon Russell, came in, and they just sat down in the corner and just listened to us play. They didn't say one word to us, nothing. They heard what they wanted to hear, and they left. And then my mom got a phone call from Snuff, and And he says, come on down to Liberty Records. You know, I want to play some demos for you, see what you think. So I guess that was him saying, yeah, I liked them, and let's record, you know. So my mom had to come because I was still a minor, and she had to sign everything. So anyway, he says, I have a song here that was offered to Bobby V, and he didn't like it. He doesn't want to do it. And then it was offered to the Drifters, and the Drifters didn't like it and didn't want to do it. So he played it for me, and I said, I like it, I'll do it.
Who wants to buy this diamond ring? She took it off her finger now, it doesn't mean a thing. This diamond ring doesn't shine for me anymore, and this diamond ring doesn't mean what it did before. So if you've got someone whose love is true, let it shine for you. This stone is genuine, like love should be. And if your baby's truer than our baby was to me, this diamond ring can be something beautiful, and this diamond ring can be dreams that are coming true. And then your heart won't have to break like mine did, if there's love behind it. This diamond ring can be something beautiful, and this diamond ring can be dreams that are coming true. And then your heart won't have to break like mine did, if there's love behind it. Doesn't shine for me anymore, and this diamond ring doesn't mean what it did before. So if you've got someone whose love is true, let it shine for you.
And then boom, not only did it go to number one in the country, sold 1 million records in only 6 weeks, it kicked the Beatles out of number one.
That is a great story. I mean, so
And the Beatles were the major reason we got into rock and roll in the first place.
well, and that is really important because we've talked to other folks whose careers paralleled the Beatles or maybe even started a little bit before, and the Beatles kind of come in and kind of push everybody to the side. But the thing that's so amazing about your career, Gary, is you were right there, right as they hit. I mean, you're a contemporary with them. When they were pushing kind of everybody out to the side, you were holding your own with this monster group from England, weren't you?
That's right. That's right. Actually, myself and the Beach Boys were the only American artists that were staying right there with the whole British invasion. And that's a wonderful stat. I like that.
In fact, it was good enough to make you Cashbox Magazine's 1965 Male Vocalist of the Year. Of course, you weren't up against any artists that really knew much, just guys like Frank Sinatra and somebody named Elvis.
Yeah. And if you can imagine my surprise sitting there and hearing those nominees, Frank Sinatra, Elvis Presley, Gary Lewis, and I just leaned back like I was ready to totally relax. I was just relaxing, and then they called my name, and oh my God, I almost felt like, wait a minute, I'm almost embarrassed to come up there, but that was the way it was. I've always had my own theory on that. I'm not sure if it's true or not, but I always thought that maybe it was based on who had the most hits that year.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think it might have been based on. And 65 was a great year for me. I had 5 straight hits.
Especially surprising probably for yourself and a little humble because you had always thought of yourself in the background. You're going to be a drummer, and then you were kind of pushed a little bit more to the microphone, so probably not something that you foresaw in your future.
Well, no, I didn't. Everything was a constant build. I was the drummer, and the reason I came up front to sing and play guitar is because I couldn't see the crowd, and with all the cymbals around, they couldn't see me, and I'm doing all the lead singing too. I had way too much energy to just sit there for a whole show. So after about a year and a half, I came up front, played guitar, and did the singing from the front, where I could see the people and dance around and whatever, you know.
You take off this Diamond Ring, just a monster hit. Count Me In comes, and again, I think that goes to the top 5 again.
I went to number 2.
If you need someone to count on, count me in. Someone you can rely on through thick and thin. When you start to count the ones that you might ever doubt, if you think of counting me, count me out. When you count the ones that want you, count me too. And if I'm not first on your list, count me blue. Just be sure you count on me, and when the counting's through, count me madly in love with you. If you need someone to count on when you're down, and all your other friends you've lost, count me found. Just be sure you count on me when you're down and out. Count me in through thick and thin, or it don't count. When you count the ones that want you, count me too. And if I'm not first on your list, count me blue. Just be sure you count on me, and when the counting's through, count me madly in love with you.
As somebody that's living the business at that time, I mean, you had to think, what's so hard about this? I mean, every song I sing goes into the top 5, huh? I mean, to give us a perspective on that, Gary, a little bit.
The great thing about Snuffy Garrett was that he kept me very grounded. You know, after this Diamond Ring, we were all absolute maniacs, you know, just flipping out, going crazy. Oh, man, number 1 hit in the country, boy, is this great. So Snuffy says, hey, you know how many one-hit artists there are in the world? He says, you better calm down, and we got to really concentrate on getting that second hit. If we get the second one, we might be on our way. That's something I had never thought about. So he kept me pretty well grounded, and then Count Me In went to number 2, and then we went on to Save Your Heart for Me. That also went to number 2.
Walk along the lake with someone new. Have yourself a summer fling or two. But remember, I'm in love with you, and save your heart for me. When the summer moon is on the rise, and you're dancing under starlit skies, please don't let the stars get in your eyes. Just save your heart for me. When you're all alone, far away from home, someone's gonna flirt with you. I won't think it's wrong if you play along. Just don't fall for someone new. When the autumn winds begin to blow, and the summertime is long ago, you'll be in my arms again, I know. So save your heart for me, darling, save your heart for me. Please remember, I'm in love with you, so save your heart for me, darling, save your heart for me.
first 7 were all top 10.
And the song "Everybody Loves a Clown," I always thought, did that have something to do with obviously your dad being the comedian he was?
Well, yeah. When I started writing that song, I had no intention of releasing it to the public or putting it on a record or anything. It was just going to be a little novelty number that I was going to write, record, and give it to my dad for his birthday in 1965. But the tune started to evolve to where I was saying, hey, man, this sounds pretty darn good. Mm-hmm. This sounds like it could be a hit. So I ended up keeping the tune, and that also went top 10.
Everybody loves a clown, so why don't you? Everybody laughs at the things that I say and do. They all laugh when they see me coming, but you don't laugh, you just go home running. Everybody loves a clown, so why can't you? A clown has feelings too. I joke around at a party when you are there. You don't laugh, you don't look, you just don't care. If you wonder why this clown is crying, look a little closer inside, I'm dying. It's not easy to be in love, you see, when you're a clown like me. I don't know how to say that I love you, 'cause you would smile and say, tell a joke or two. Yes, I'm a clown, but I don't wanna be. Why can't you see the other side of me? Guess I'll be the guy who plays the part of a clown with a broken heart. Dreaming of your love and not knowing where to start. Dreaming of your love and not knowing where to start. Dreaming of your love and not knowing where to start.
Talking, of course, to the great Gary Lewis, and he and the Playboys hit #1 first in 1965. You're only 19 years old, just out of high school, really. Besides the guys in the group, you obviously still were hanging around a lot of friends that you'd probably known for years. What was the reaction from these people once you started to really nail the charts?
Well, all of my friends were people I graduated high school with, and I was in the first year of a theater arts college. And, I didn't know what I really wanted to do yet. So the Beatles came out, made up my mind for me, and then we started recording. We went to do the Ed Sullivan Show in New York with This Diamond Ring. And then all of a sudden I said, well, what the heck am I going to go back to school for? This is what I want to do. So I just quit and pursued the recording and touring career. And all my friends stayed with me. They were just flabbergasted and thrilled for me. So I totally stayed in contact with all those people all these years.
Now, were your band of friends, were they showbiz kids like yourself, or were they...
No.
Okay.
No, they were just classmates at the Theater Arts College that I put together from various classes, and our bass player at the time, he was the only one that had a house with an outside cabana area where we could rehearse. So he was immediately the bass player,
Right.
and that's what we did. And our very first job was at Disneyland, California, in summertime in 1964. We got the job to play all summer there, June, July, and August. And that's where Snuffy Garrett actually came out and heard us play for the first time, but we didn't know it. We didn't know he was there. And so we were rehearsing, like I said, at Paramount, and that's when him and Leon Russell came in. And it was a great triangle. Myself as the artist, Snuffy as the producer, and Leon Russell, who arranged everything we ever did.
Now, in 1965 and beyond, as all of these hits start to go, you're obviously doing some touring. What was that like in 1965, and were you kind of doing the cavalcade of stars, or how did it form itself?
We did the Dick Clark Caravan of Stars stuff. We were on tour with, like, Gene Pitney, Bobby Goldsboro, Brian Hyland, the Yardbirds, the Crystals, Sam the Sham and the Pharaohs. About 10 acts. Y'all get on a bus and do 6 to 8 weeks of one-nighters, and it was fun. It was absolutely fun, and it was like Beatlemania. The chicks couldn't wait to get back to the stage door. So if you didn't get out of there real quick, you'd get your clothes ripped and your hair pulled and this and that, and I thought it was just great.
I was going to say, it sounds just horrible. What an existence for guys in their early 20s.
I loved it. I absolutely loved every minute of it.
Good for you.
I loved all of your stuff, Gary, but a song that I thought was really neat, just because the change in it a little bit in the harmonies, was "She's Just My Style" with how did that all come about? And that was a little departure for Gary Lewis and the Playboys, wasn't it?
Right. Well, Snuffy Garrett said, I'd really like to do a Beach Boy tune, try to get a Beach Boy sound. And he said, I'm really superstitious about things. He said, we're recording in the very same studio that the Beach Boys do all their recording in, so there's got to be these Beach Boy spirits all over the place. So we're going for a Beach Boy sound. And, what did I know? I said, great, let's do it. We came up with "She's Just My Style," and that also went to number 2 in the country for us.
Every time I see her, she don't even look my way. Maybe she will notice me, but then what would I say? I would say what's on my mind, but the words are hard to find. But I'm gonna try to tell her anyway.
Don't you know that she's just my style? Everything about her drives me wild. Don't you know that she's just my style? Everything about her drives me wild. Don't you know that she's fine? So fine.
Other guys who meet her may not think she's much to see. I can't begin to tell you what she always does to me. Maybe it's the clothes she wears, or the way she combs her hair. Oh, that makes me wanna tell her that I care.
don't you know that she's just my style? Everything about her drives me wild. Don't you know that she's just my style? Everything about her drives me wild. Don't you know that she's fine? So fine.
Maybe it's the clothes she wears, or the way she combs her hair. Oh, that makes me wanna tell her that I care.
Don't you know that she's just my style? Everything about her drives me wild. Don't you know that she's just my style? Everything about her drives me wild. Don't you know that she's fine? So fine. Don't you know that she's just my style? Everything about her drives me wild. Don't you know that she's just my style? Everything about her drives me wild. Don't you know that she's just my style? Everything about her drives me wild. Don't you know that she's just my style? Everything about her drives me wild. Don't you know that she's just
Now, even before that, you actually had a couple of movie appearances. In fact, one of John's favorites and my favorite movies of all time starred your dad, The Nutty Professor. You actually found yourself in that film.
I did. But my dad didn't think about standards and practices at the time because I was only 17 and he had me sitting at a bar in a club. So, I did my lines and everything like that, and then California says, I'm sorry, he's 17, he cannot be at a bar, cut it out.
Jeez.
So they cut that whole part out.
Didn't realize it. But you'd actually appeared with him about 5 years before that in Rockabye Baby as well.
Correct. I was playing him as a kid. He was in a dream sequence kind of thing, thinking back. That was me singing a song to the girl he loved.
What was your relationship like with your dad? I mean, I'd heard stories that there was some estrangement for a time, and of course, being a kid of the '60s, that was, not uncommon to have, maybe a parent and there's the youngster not see eye to eye. Was things really cool with you and your dad all the way through?
No, they weren't. As a matter of fact, when I got out of the Army, the music had changed so radically from my kind of stuff to Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, The Doors, and so I said, "Yeah, man, I'm going to grow my hair real long and let me see what they're talking about this pot stuff."
Right.
So I started experimenting with that stuff, having real long hair. My dad didn't want me around because I might influence my brothers for this and that and everything. So I just said, well, screw it. I'm in a different business, and I'm just going to do what I want to do. So there was a period of drug use there, for a while, and then it just didn't make any sense anymore to me in about 1984. And so I cleaned up, and that's how it's been since then.
There's a lot of your contemporaries that weren't able to clean up, and they're not here to talk about it today. What was
right.
What was the turning point? I mean, maybe your lowest low where you said, "Hey, I don't need this stuff anymore."
Well, the turning point was 1984 when this agent from Indianapolis called me and says, "Hey, man, the '60s are coming back." And I'm saying, "Yeah, all right, sure." He says, "I can book you 60 to 100 dates a year." I said, "What? Are you kidding me? Well, if you can do it, I'll play them." So in '84, that started happening. I mean, at least 60 dates a year. And man, I was just working. There was no time for this other stuff, Right. There was no time for all that. I was busy. I was in music, doing what I loved to do. And I said, this is a gift. This is a gift, so I'm going to treat it right.
You had alluded to your stint in the Army, and of course you lived through a time when people were registered for the draft, and there was even a draft lottery, people huddling around TV sets to find out
right.
where they might fall in line. How did that experience turn out for you?
Well, I think, I didn't want to go because, I was coming off of 7 top 10s in a row, and I get my draft notice. I mean, it's like hitting a brick wall going 100 miles an hour, But everybody was saying, you can get out of it. Come on, you can talk to somebody. Your dad can get you out and all that. And I just said, no, man. Elvis did it. I'm gonna do it. Elvis was my guide on that. Because he didn't complain. He didn't beef. He went and he did what he had to do, and that's how I was looking at it. So it ended up that even though I didn't want to go, I went. And you grow up very fast in the Army. This is real life and no kidding around, You go to war zones and stuff. You got to take care of each other and all that. You grow up real quick. So it was probably the best thing I could have done for myself.
I was going to say, Gary, the difference between Elvis's experience and yours, you're going in at a time when there's a shooting war going on. So you're put in harm's way. Talk to us a little bit about, now you actually did go over to Vietnam, did you not?
Yeah, I did. I went over there. I was stationed right there at Tan Son Nhut Air Base, where all the troops come into, for 3 months because the brass didn't know what they wanted to do with me. Here I am, and they're just bewildered. Like, where are we going to put them? What are we going to do here? And in 1968, the North Koreans took one of our ships, the Pueblo. I don't know if you remember that.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
But there was a tremendous military buildup in South Korea because of that, and I was one of those guys that went up there to South Korea. So actually, in Vietnam, I just heard gunfire. You know, I didn't see any of it. I wasn't involved in any of it.
Mm-hmm.
Good. I mean, things worked out for me. You know?
I'm wondering, too, you mentioned that the brass wasn't quite sure what to do with you. Do you think that would have been, in their mind, bad publicity to have a famous celebrity die on the front lines?
Oh, absolutely. I definitely think that had a lot to do with their decision to keep me right there at the air base until we figured things out. I mean, one night we heard about the North Koreans taking the Pueblo, and then the next day, boom, I'm gone. They were looking for something.
How were you treated by the other soldiers, Gary? Were you treated pretty normally, or?
Well, I was raised the right way, you know. I must have been raised to be a good guy because, you know, I respected everybody that I was in the service with, you know. They're in the same boat as I was. And I didn't think I was better than anybody, you know, and it came out like that. Because after basic training, you know, all my drill sergeants and stuff, they all told me, Lewis, we thought you were going to be a real pain in the ass. You know, but boy, you did what you were supposed to do. We admire you, you know, and this and that. So it all worked out really good, you know, just because of the way I was raised with manners and courtesy and all that stuff, and all that spread to all the people I was in the service with.
And let's go back to your mom, because you mentioned being raised in the right way. Obviously, Patty Lewis gets an enormous amount of credit, and while she's funding the purchases of the band's equipment, giving you a place to play, she doesn't appear to be the mom that was walking around holding her fingers in her ears. She was behind you the whole way. What was her reaction when all of this success started to come?
First of all, she was super proud, you know, and she used to come to all of our gigs. Wherever we would play in California, she'd be there, you know, and she said, well, okay, you're still a minor, so I'm gonna be your manager. And she said, and I won't even take commission. I said, well, good. You know, book those things for no commission, Mom. Thanks.
Sandwich maker,
exactly.
Mom, agent. Boy, she was the complete package.
Yeah, she was terrific, you know, because she knew all about the music business, because in the 40s, for 2 years, she was the chick singer for Jimmy Dorsey's band. She was on the road all the time, and she was working up to the 8th month of being pregnant with me. So I know that's where I got my music from.
Exactly.
I'm sure she was aware of all the pitfalls of the music industry, and she said, I'm going to take care of my boy. So good for her.
She was really good. She gave me so much great advice that I use even today, you know. She's the greatest.
Well, you mentioned you're getting out of the service now. We'll move you back over there. Music changed while you were gone. In just that period of just a few years you're gone, like you said, it's more psychedelic. Jimi Hendrix has come on.
2 years, yeah.
Yeah, in just 2 years, exactly. So all of a sudden you're coming back, and music has changed. How do you deal with that, Gary?
Well, you know, I was really at a loss. I mean, I didn't want to start trying to do that kind of music just to stay in the business.
Right.
I mean, that's one thing I learned real early. Don't sing out of your style. Mm-hmm. So I didn't. And I just laid out for a long time. I bought a music store in Los Angeles and sold guitar and drums and gave lessons on both until 1984, when that agent from Indiana called me.
Okay.
So I just stayed out of it from like 1971 to 84.
And of course, your dad very involved with the muscular dystrophy telethon, and I know,
right.
And I want to take a moment here, Gary, and on behalf of Rick and I and all of our listeners, to first of all thank your dad and thank you, because we know it's a family effort when you have a family member so involved in a cause for so many years.
Yeah.
I mean, from the 1950s on to now. I mean, that had to be a huge part of his life, and we're so saddened to hear that he's not going to be a part of that. Of course, we realize he's 85 years old too. But
yeah, right. He is slowing down. I mean, he's slowing way down, you know. And I don't know if he could do it anymore, but it was kind of a thing. Oh, pardon me.
No, you're fine. No, we agree.
It was kind of a drag that they actually fired him.
Yeah, I mean, you raised over $1 billion for the cause. I mean, I dare say that cause would have not come close to raising that kind of money had your dad not championed
Nobody
it.
would even know about it.
Right.
Yeah, exactly right. And That's why people watch in the first place, because he was there.
What was his first motivation for even getting involved with that particular cause, Gary?
You know, nobody knows.
Okay.
Nobody knows, and he always tells everybody, when we find the cure, I'll let you know.
Oh, wow.
I don't know what the deal is. I mean, you know, MDA. What do they think? They're going to do better without him?
Yeah, I know it. Are they going to have at least a spotlight for him and coming up or anything, or are they just? Is it just?
I think they said he's going to sing the final song this year.
Oh, okay.
You know that song at the end,
Yeah.
You'll Never Walk Alone.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I'm not sure about that either.
You bet.
I mean, we can certainly all remember staying up the entire 24 hours, even calling friends. Are you watching? Did you see this act?
Yeah, me too.
Being
you know,
excited
all of
about
us,
everyone.
Me and my brothers.
The key moment for me was several years ago, probably 20, 30 years ago now maybe, when Frank Sinatra brings Dean Martin onto the stage.
Yeah.
And these guys had not seen each other literally, I guess, since the time that they'd broken up as a comedy
Long
duo.
time.
Yeah,
I think it was 20 years, yeah.
That was really a tender moment, wasn't it?
Oh, it was great. I was right there in the wings watching the whole thing.
Holy cow.
Nobody knew what was going on. They just knew Frank Sinatra was backstage. You know, I don't even know where Dean was hanging out, waiting. You know, nobody knew anything. Frank just says, I brought a friend of mine over. He'd like to say hi to you. And then Dean walks out. You know, they hug and everything and all this. And then my dad's first line to him is, "So, you working?"
What did your dad have to say after that event?
He said he had this insatiable urge to go into one of their old bits.
Yeah.
You know, but he saw that Dean had been drinking a little bit, and his eyes weren't really focusing too good, so he passed on it.
But that started those two back talking again and getting at least a...
it did.
Yeah.
And then when Dean's son, Dino, died in the plane crash, he was in the Air Force, and he flew into a mountain or something. I don't know what happened, but my dad actually went to that funeral, but stayed way, way, way in the back so that nobody would know. But of course everybody found out, you know.
Sure.
And then that's what really started Dean and Dad talking again.
Oh yeah, it's sad that it had to be something like that. What was it that led to their split? I mean, did you ever figure that out, or did your dad ever talk about that?
Dean was very happy doing exactly what he did.
Mm-hmm.
You know, doing movies, singing his 3 songs in the movies, and doing albums and recordings and everything. He was very happy with all that. But my dad was not happy with just doing that. He wanted to write, produce, direct, edit, be involved with every aspect of everything. And Dean just didn't want to do that.
Okay.
You know, so I guess it was my dad's growth wanting to get into all these different avenues concerning his career that, you know, Dean didn't want to do it. He was very happy doing what he did. And that's the reason right there.
Green grass round my window, young leaves that the wind blows. Yes, it's springtime, golden sunshine, and we're glad, my little love and I, now that summertime is nigh. Carefree, kissing couple, dream away all their trouble, 'cause it's springtime, golden sunshine, while the bluebirds sing their magic song, we will love the summer long. All the winter we've been waiting, girl and I anticipating what we're gonna do with summer overdue. Now it's here, we're out together, so the weatherman had better do his best to make his show and bring the sunshine out to grow the green grass round my window. Young leaves that the wind blows. Yes, it's springtime, golden sun.
You mentioned that you were estranged from your dad for a while.
Yeah.
What was the thing that got you back? You and he getting back cool again?
When I cleaned up.
Okay.
You know, I started going to AA and doing all that stuff. See, I'm not even supposed to say that, actually, because of the anonymity thing.
Right.
You know, but who cares?
Sure.
I mean, you know, I'm in the public eye.
You
know,
bet.
I'm proud of it.
What's Gary Lewis doing now these days?
I'm still on the road, and it's wonderful. And we're playing today. We're playing to the people who bought all the records in the '60s. You know, they're my age now, and they bring their kids, and they bring their kids, and I get emails from 7- and 8-year-old kids saying, "My grandmother sings me to sleep with your songs." You know, stuff like that. I mean, it's so cool. It's not a type of music that parents want to keep away from their kids.
Exactly, and we're finding that doing what we do here, Rick and I, is that we get a thrill when a 20-something calls us, and they're discovering this stuff really for the first time, and it's I guess, and I'm going to ask you this, Gary, are you, when you think about it, from this diamond ring back in like 1965 to we're 2011 now, I mean, could you have even imagined that we'd still be talking about those songs going on 50 years later?
Absolutely not. I mean, I thought every band had a longevity of 3 years.
Yeah, man.
I mean, even the Beatles in interviews said that. Oh, we'll be around probably 3 or 4 years. It is the biggest gift anybody could ever have, is to have that longevity. My God, in January it'll be 48 years.
Well, we're certainly always looking at it as a gift to us. Boy, the vocals so clean, the music so sharp, so enjoyable, so lyrical that people, of course, can't help but singing right along. Very proud to say that you're a core artist on our radio station, and that's why the music is still so prominent and so beloved today.
All right. Well, thank you very much for that.
Ed Sullivan, I am fascinated by the Ed Sullivan Show, and anybody that listens to this, I always got to we talk to Tommy James about his experiences. And the reason,
he's great. I love Tommy.
And the reason I'm so fascinated by the Ed Sullivan Show is he just seemed to be clueless in some ways. I mean, he had this, this pop music was going on, and certainly he wasn't really a fan of it. I mean, he was a fan of what it was doing for his show, obviously, but he'd call the mamas and the papas the mamas and the poppers. Tommy said that they called him they called him what.
I
Tommy
Jones.
Tell
you how he introduced us once.
Okay.
Yes.
Luckily, it was only a dress rehearsal, but Ed's dress rehearsals had an audience.
Right.
So he says, "Ladies and gentlemen, on our stage right now, let's have a nice hand for Jerry Lewis's Sons Combo." Can you imagine that?
You said, well, that's going to look odd on the marquee.
Yeah, right.
Oh, my God.
Totally lost your identity.
Well, I went to him immediately after that, and I said, "No, Gary Lewis and the Playboys, please, please."
That is so sad.
So he got it right at showtime.
Oh, man.
Did you get a good dressing room? Because we've heard different stories.
There were no good dressing rooms. There weren't, I swear. Everything was a little dumpy room that needed paint, and it was nothing. It was just nothing.
And we've heard that it's just a grueling week of preparation and rehearsals getting ready for the Ed Show.
Yeah, but it was. I mean, every minute back then was fun. Yeah. Every single thing that happened was fun. It just didn't matter if we had to be there 14 hours or something. My God, I'm staying right along with the Beatles, too.
Yep.
Keeping all that good stuff in mind, it made everything great.
In doing some of the shows that you were a part of, did you get to meet some great artists that you had always had great affection for, or some people like that?
On Ed Sullivan?
Yes.
No, as a matter of fact, when I was on the show, there were no other musical artists on.
Okay.
It was just always the bull show.
We did Ed show 6 times.
Yeah.
So you got to meet the juggler and the and Topo Gigio.
We met the Topo Gigio. the dancing bear and stuff like that.
Who are some of your hangout buddies, as far as maybe some of their listeners would know in the music business? Some of the guys and gals that you kind
Well,
of
I
hung out
always
with?
used to hang out with Herman's Hermits, the Grassroots, the Turtles, the Buckinghams, Lovin' Spoonful, Paul Revere and the Raiders.
Yeah.
All those guys were like the closest ones to me. We started playing together in the 60s, and we still play together now.
I'm biased, but I always say it's the best era of music ever, from the late 50s right on through the 60s into the 70s. That is, I mean, the lyrics and
I
everything.
totally agree, you know, and still being around today, that actually says, okay, fine. The
Right.
young kids can have their kind of music and everything, but the 60s definitely has its audience.
Sure.
And it always will. You know, people always like what they grew up with. And so the 60s has its permanent place. So does the 50s. So does the 70s.
And your website, of course, that's how I stumbled across you a little bit.
Yeah, GaryLewisandthePlayboys.com.
It is a great website, and keeps the fans up to date on what's happening with our best buddy, Gary Lewis.
Right.
And we sure hope that we can find you playing in Michigan soon. We'd love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, these two promoters from Michigan have contacted me, but nothing's been talked about yet. So maybe we will get up there.
How many dates now do you do, just as an average, Gary?
Well, there's never an average. You know, every year is
Sure.
so different. I mean, we could do 20 one year and 100 the next. It's just how people are feeling, whether or not their budgets have been cut. You know, so many things come into it nowadays.
Well, be sure to keep us in mind. Our listeners would love to know. We'd love to know that you're in our neighborhood, and we'll drive some folks out to see you.
Absolutely. Well, you know, that'll be on my website too.
All right, fantastic. Hey, thanks for taking some time with us, Gary. It's been a hoot getting a chance to meet you, and you're everything that we'd hoped you'd be.
Great. Thanks a lot. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
All right, take care, Gary.
Okay, see you later.
You bet.
Never did too much to make her stay here. Words of love to her I never say. I guess I learned a lesson when she walked out to stay, but I'm sure gonna miss her. Sure gonna miss her. I'm sure gonna miss her every day. I don't suppose I ever said I love you, and I found out too late that wasn't right. I'm just now realizing what I lost, that's why I'm crying, and I'm sure gonna miss her. Sure gonna miss her. I'm sure gonna miss her every night. I know I took her love for granted. Guess you could say my love was blind. Thought if she left that I could stand it, or else it didn't matter at the time. I heard she's found a guy that treats her better. I hope he knows that he's a lucky guy. I know the rumor's true because I saw her today, and I'm sure gonna miss her. He was walking with her. I'm sure gonna miss her. Yes, I am.
Talking Tunes.
Muskegon's 100.9? Come on, let's listen in on a high-level meeting with the Talkin' Tunes team.
Okay, we need ideas for our next promo to promote Talkin' Tunes. Anybody? But come on, it's great talk and interviews and awesome music. Saturday mornings from 10 to noon. I mean, anybody got an idea? Nothing. You got to be kidding. We're not leaving here until you guys come up with some kind of idea. I mean, we can.
Don't worry, they'll come up with something. Eventually. Maybe. Talking Tunes, Saturday mornings from 10 to noon on Muskegon's 100.9.